Hey, Godfather of Anxiety here. Just wanted to do a short video about the link between autism and anxiety disorders. I've referred to this briefly in some of my other videos, but as you guys may know, I mentioned also in other videos that my youngest child is on the spectrum. She's autistic. And so we went and we had some genetic testing. And sure enough, that was then that the geneticist told us that people with a history of anxiety disorders in their family will be more likely to have children on the spectrum. And it kind of goes both ways. Autistic people will also be more likely to have not just children potentially who are autistic, but also children who have anxiety spectrum conditions. So this was something I never knew about until we went to see the geneticist. I've done some research on it since then, and I think it's pertinent because, I think you should know what to look for if you are somebody with anxiety spectrum disorders. You might want to keep an eye out for your children if they're exhibiting any of the spectrum behaviors, autism spectrum disorder. It's not, significant enough where if you have anxiety, you have to be dreading that your child might have autism. That's the link is not that strong, but there's definitely a link. It's definitely associated with that. And, I think it's, like I said, I think it's important to know. And also because people on the spectrum who are autistic, they're going to deal with these anxiety spectrum conditions, almost for sure, because of their inability to regulate their emotions and their inability to understand certain social cues. That's the reason why they want to stay in their own heads, is because trying to come out of it causes a great deal of stress and anxiety, because without getting too deep into it, they are not able to, because of sensory issues, they're not able to interpret their environment the same way a neurotypical person does. So I just want to mention just briefly, it's going to be a short video, just briefly some of the commonalities that you might notice between the two groups, between people with anxiety spectrum disorders, such as generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, etc., and people who are on the autism spectrum. For one thing, we're both going to find safety in routines, even bad routines, right? If you know anybody or are someone who's autistic, you know that routines are extremely important to you. You're going to be rather rigid, in fact, with some of your routines, and you're not going to want to deviate from them at the risk of it having a tremendously bad effect on you and skyrocketing your anxiety. Next, feeling uncomfortable in social situations. Now, whereas the person with either social anxiety or with, one of the other anxiety spectrum conditions, where their primary fear might come from a lack of control in a social situation, the autistic person, they'll also have that same fear of a lack of control of it, but they also don't understand the social cues. It's almost like being dropped in a country where you don't understand the language. Imagine if you were dropped in a country where you don't understand the language, and the language is sign language. And this is what autistic people are faced with every day. They have an inability to regulate their own emotions and to interpret the social cues of neurotypical people. So it ends up causing a tremendous amount of anxiety in their lives. And then a final link that I've noticed is the compulsions. Like, we'll have compulsions or some repetitive or self-soothing behaviors that we'll do. Some of us with anxiety spectrum conditions, And autistic people also will do self-soothing behaviors called stimming, where they're trying to, because of their inability to express their emotions or to regulate their emotions, they're engaging in a repetitive behavior, sometimes rocking, sometimes spinning, sometimes walking on their toes, sometimes humming, could be anything. And they're doing this to self-soothe, to quell their anxiety that's being caused by not being able to understand to understand the world that you're existing in. So it's a very difficult condition. And for those of you out there who maybe have a child on the spectrum, my heart goes out to you. I know how difficult it is. And as well as those of you who may be on the spectrum yourself, and obviously all of us that are glued into this channel are suffering from anxiety conditions, and they're no bowl of cherries either. So I wanted to do this because, you know, my daughter's very important to me. And, you know, just a quick little history about the story of my daughter's autism. She was born fine. She hit all her milestones up until 1.5 years. She had language. She talked, she played. We have video evidence that she was developing well, and then she regressed. Without getting into specifics about what could have caused the regression, science, that's a matter of debate. The one thing I will say is that there's no such thing as genetic epidemics. So clearly there's been something added to the environment that is triggering these autistic conditions, autism spectrum disorder. What it is, I don't believe they know for sure. I think that science has an idea. I believe it's a complex combination of both genetics and exposure. And without getting into anything too deeply where, you know, I'll get the ire of potential backlash on YouTube, you know, there's definitely something external that's causing this. And here's the numbers to back it up. The rate of autism is 100 times higher than it was 40 years ago. 100 times. Now listen to that. Not 100%. Not 100%. 100 times more than it was. Some of this can be explained with better diagnostics. Some of this can be explained with other things. But clearly there's some external thing that's hitting the human genome in a way to cause autism spectrum disorder. I do think it's great that so much progress has been made in the diagnostics of this. And through early intervention and therapy, my daughter has come a long way. She has a long way to go. But, you know, it is what it is. We'll be dealing with this. She'll be dealing with this her whole life. And, you know, I just think that it was important to make the video because if you realize there's a link potentially between the two, you'll know what to look out for either way. You know, to keep an eye out for whether it's an anxious kid or whether to keep an eye out for a kid maybe who's not developing socially the way you would expect. And, you know, the purpose of the video isn't to do some long dissertation on autism and all the symptoms and all the, you know, different things that happen in autism spectrum disorder. It was just to acknowledge the link, to have you guys keep your eyes open to the possibility. I did not have any idea that there was any link between anxiety genetically and autism. And, you know, so, and that's another reason why I made the video, because I think that it's something that people may not realize. You could also throw ADHD in there. That's another one that seems to be linked as well. So it's about all I wanted to say in this video, guys. Thanks so much for the engagement with the channel. I really appreciate it. it's going very well. And until my next video, take care.